Chapter 17 12 Like rats. Frederick felt like his heart had locked solid in his chest. Every nerve in his body screamed in terror as the giant beast loomed over him. With such overwhelming power, he could feel the monster's might within every cell. Against something like this, there could be no victory, and he'd been a fool to even entertain the possibility. This wasn't work for Delvers. They needed to get the army, or the Legion, if they wanted to fight this beast. Then he noticed the monster's legs explode. A shower of blood rained down over the frozen Delvers, bursting out from the joints of the creature's 6 legs. A moment later, the legs themselves seemed to detach, falling to the ground, followed by the monster, who collapsed with a thunderous crash. Damn it, the creature roared in their heads, but this was all the opening Frederick needed. Run, he roared. We should fight. It's injured. Some idiot called back. Shut up and run. Frederick roared back. For all he knew, the legs being injured was just a trick. Was he going to risk his life to find out? No, he was not. Instead, he ran. A moment later, he stepped over Seamus and Elsie, lying on the ground facing up, seemingly having surrendered. He sneered at their cowardice. Because it spared them once, they thought it might do so again. Foolishness. After all, nobody else had come back after meeting it. No, you don't. A flash of purple light, a rushing sound, cracking stone, and then Frederick was face down on the ground. Nose broken and bleeding, he tried to turn his head so he could breathe, only to find he was buried several inches into the rock. Whatever force pressed him down, it was incredibly strong. Even if he strained hard, he couldn't overcome it. Standing up was just a dream within a dream. What was this? You really thought my legs exploding was going to be enough to let you get away? Foolish. A pause. How long do these damn— There we go. A few seconds later, vibrations through the floor told Frederick the monster was moving again. He knew it was a trick. You could never know what a monster was capable of. Regrowing limbs wasn't even a surprise. He'd once seen a monster that grew vestigial bodies, puppeting them about the place from a distance. You might be reading a pirated copy. Look for the official release to support the author. These things are way too small. Vestigial legs, my thorax. These are vestigial stumps. Oh wait, they're growing. Neat. The monster continued to force its thoughts into Frederick's mind, regardless of how he tried to force it out. It nattered to itself, almost like a child, yet he couldn't help but feel the sinister intent behind the chatter. Why broadcast these thoughts to them at all, unless to demonstrate its mastery? So confident of its invincibility, the monster could afford to take its time, to mock the Delvers in their plight. No matter how he strained, Frederick simply couldn't move, so he gave up trying. He could hold his breath for an hour if he had to, but if he strained further, that time would rapidly diminish. So far, everything was following the same pattern Seamus had reported from their encounter. The strange force that crushed people into the ground, pinning the Delvers in place. What would happen next? Oh, hey, I remember you too, lying face up. Good idea. So that's why they'd done that. Still can't breathe, though, can you? Not enough strength to expand your lungs. Take that, Seamus, Frederick thought vengefully. Seamus must have replied, but only the monster could hear him. I don't know, lift more or something. Work on your diaphragm. In the meantime, just relax. I need to go poke around. More vibrations as the monster began to move around, coming closer. Not you. Why would you even think about that in this situation? Weirdo. Nope, not you either. There has to be someone here. Oh, a priest. Welcome, welcome. Not you either. Frederick felt the weight in his mind intensify further. Aha, someone in charge. Hello there. I'll let you up for a moment. Instantly, the crushing pressure was gone. Frederick flopped over and looked up to see the ant standing uncomfortably close, looking down at him, antennae waving. Antennae. They were like trees. Cautiously, he stood. With this view from below, he could actually see the ant's mouth on the underside of its head. It was disgusting. A nightmare vision of himself being consumed by those twitching little claw-like things flashed through his mind. Right then, the ant said, much like before, I'm thinking of sending 1 or 2 of you back, to really drive in the fear and terror. Build up a sense of helplessness, all that good stuff. By the time I reach Green Mountain, they should be trembling with greed and good old-fashioned terror. You know what I mean. I do, Frederick said, not understanding at all. This ant wanted to waltz up to Green Mountain by itself. Even as strong as it was, that would be suicide. Built as a fortress mountain to hold off monsters during the most intensive waves, it was packed full of soldiers and defensive arrays that rivaled the best the Legion could produce. I'm sure they will be very afraid. You should go there as soon as possible. You know I'm in your head, right? Frederick cursed internally. He wasn't used to guarding his thoughts anymore, not after so long away from the field. You know what? I probably don't need to send anyone back at all, now that I think about it. The absence of survivors will be more than scary enough. Seeing the writing on the wall, Frederick ripped his blade from its sheath and ran at the monster, blade light blazing along its edge. If he was going to die, he was going down fighting. An instant later he was face down on the ground again, head ringing from the force of the impact. You're still in the domain, are you really a manager? Sheesh. Chrysalis, take this lot away, would you? This is getting embarrassing. Chapter 17:13 Renegotiate. Ah, if it isn't my favorite resident of Green Mountain. So nice to see you again, Ms. Alice. Or is it Mrs.? Once again, in the boat, greeted by obsequious, yet somehow mocking Brathian merchants, here to meet this infuriating creature. I am married, she replied stiffly, taking her seat. Oh, how wonderful. I must say, as a terrifying and frightful monster, merchant chuckled, limiting personal relationships such as those are beyond my understanding. Not to say I don't have a family, I have the largest family in Pangara, but the idea of starting a new family all on my own is quite dreadful. How could a monster understand what it's like to be a real living being? Alice replied coolly, born from the dungeon, you couldn't know what a real family is like. If she intended to get a rise from the ant, she failed. Merchant merely waved her statement away as she removed and cleaned her glasses. Oh, pish, I have a mother and millions upon millions of sisters. From my point of view, your family is wholly inadequate. Placing her glasses back on her head, Merchant reached out and picked up the cup on the table in front of her. Sipping her tea, she clacked her mandibles in satisfaction before putting it back down again. Well, we didn't come here to discuss family, we came to discuss a transaction. My favorite type of discussion. We have 300 of your delvers locked up at the moment. Are you interested in taking them back? Had they really taken 300 delvers? It seemed impossible, yet there hadn't been any word from those in the tunnels in days. At first, the Union hadn't been worried, but that facade was starting to slip with every hour that ticked by. There were still hundreds of delvers in the city, but they were growing reluctant to leave. In such a short span of time, the ants appeared to have flipped the script, and now it was Green Mountain huddling behind their walls, too fearful to emerge. I require proof that you have them in your custody, she said in crisp tones. There can be no conversation without that evidence. Of course. Merchant reached below the table, collected a sheet of paper and placed it on the table. No problem at all. We have a list of signatures here from all of the captives we've taken. Except for the priests, of course. The author's narrative has been misappropriated. Report any instances of this story on Amazon. Controlling her reaction, Alice took the paper calmly, casting her eyes down the list. She'd consulted with the Union only a few days ago, she recognized these names. When she saw Frederick Armin, she couldn't help but audibly tisk. He was the most senior member of the Union in the field. She'd hoped he'd been able to make his escape and bring back information, but that hope appeared to have been dashed. There are thousands of delvers in the tunnels right now, but we are sweeping them up at an impressive rate, wouldn't you say? I was here just a few days ago, after all. The ant flicked ash from the end of her cigar and clacked her mandibles in amusement. How long until we get them all? And I really hate to push you, but it would be remiss of me not to remind you that this particular offer is severely constrained by the temporal flow. The what? It's a limited time offer. Again, a small folded piece of paper was slid across the table. What was it with this ant and its small piece of folded paper? This is the current price. It's not too much higher than the previous one. Alice unfolded the page, then blanched. It's double, she exclaimed, but who can put a price on a life? As it happens, me. This is going to get more and more expensive if you continue to hold off, so I suggest you take advantage of this early aphid special and save yourself from great pain in the future. I can't just agree to pay such a sum without the approval of the council, Alice stated evenly. Getting that approval takes time. There are budgets to consider. Limitations placed on public expenditure. It isn't possible for the council to produce this much coin in such a short span. If the colony wants to seriously engage in talks, then we need a reasonable time frame to work with and a sensible price point. So far, these talks have been nothing but childish demands and bluster. Merchant laughed aloud while clacking her mandibles in time. A wonderful attempt to reframe our conversations, but I'm afraid it is you who doesn't seem to grasp the nature of this transaction. Merchant buffed her glasses before replacing them, predatory intelligence gleaming in every facet of her eyes. Price is determined by demand. Demand is impacted by scarcity. Your supply of delvers is going to plummet rather precipitously over the next few days. Naturally, such a drop in supply will be met with an increase in price. The more Green Mountain wants its delvers back, the more we will charge. How in the name of Pangara was it winking? There was no eyelid, none at all, yet somehow the monster gave the impression of a cheeky wink. Was it magic of some kind? An optical illusion? That's just basic economics. In terms of the timeframe necessary to raise funds, I'm afraid to say that's not our problem. It is if you want to get your filthy money, Alice pointed out coldly. That's backwards, Merchant grinned. Somehow, it isn't us who want money, it's you who want delvers. What you really need to consider is, can you afford to drag your feet? Just imagine what number is going to be written on that page when we have every delver in Green Mountain locked up. Merchant rubbed her front claws together. It's going to be delicious.